Good evening, councillors, staff, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Ordinary Council meeting for August 2025. I am Mayor Margaret Thomas and I will be chairing this meeting. I wish to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land we are meeting on this evening and share this message from the elders. Kaya kaya Brodius Mamanyot's Kulanga, Nuna de Mort, Nitchukulan Nalamaya Kalamunda Budja, Yayi, Nanjurapan, Wajulas Kulan, Jina, Nuna de Nitcha, Nunga Budja, Nunga Brodius Kura, Yayi, Burda Burda, Kadala, Burda, Kaya, Yunga. Hello, welcome to our leaders, men, women, family members who have come to our place today, and I'm happy to see you standing on Noongar land of their leaders, past, present and future. The operations of Council and the agenda for this meeting are governed by the provisions of the Local Government Act, Standing Orders and City of Kalamunda Code of Conduct. All matters of business listed in the agenda will be dealt with as separate decisions of Council. In the event of an emergency, please follow the instructions given by City staff and remain at the assembly point until advised it is safe to leave. This meeting is also live streamed and I would like to welcome those watching remotely. Thank you for your attendance and interest. Are there any apologies and leave of absence previously approved, CEO?
Through you, Madam Mayor, no there aren't.
So we move on to public question time. We have some questions from Shayla Straps. Is Shayla here tonight? No. So those questions are in the agenda and the responses will be made available to her. We also have a question from Tim O'Brien. Tim, would you like to come and ask your question? And if you could just state your name and suburb. Thank you. Yes, using that microphone.
My name's Brian Anthony O'Brien. I go by the name of Tim. What would you say?
If you could use that microphone, please,
Yeah.
Tim.
Okay. Good evening. Does the City of Kalamunda have regulations regarding fences between neighbouring houses with respect to such things as the allowable height of the fence and how the height is measured if it sits on a retaining wall? If so, where do I find such information? If I build a fence on my property 300 millimetre inside the boundary rather than on the boundary, is that fence a dividing fence, and B, regulated by a policy regarding the regulations of dividing fences?
Thank you, Tim. I will go to our Director of Development Services for a response.
Thank you, and through the Chair. Mr O'Brien, happy to have a conversation with you afterwards with respect to the Dividing Fences Act. It's a relatively complex piece of legislation between neighbours. It sounds like you've got some particulars that are probably best to be discussed with respect to how the City seeks to help broker solutions through the dividing fences. But your second question about being 300 mils inside your fence may or may not be a dividing fence if it sits on a retaining wall, which may be on the actual boundary. So happy to reach out after this council meeting and have a conversation with you about how best to help you find the information.
Can I read my question?
Absolutely.
Can I get the answer in writing?
Absolutely.
And I'll take it off from there.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I would now like to invite Hannah Lill to come and give her deputation. Hannah, same if you could just state your name and suburb, and you have 10 minutes. If you take a seat and turn on the microphone before you start. Thank you, Hannah.
Good evening and thank you for the opportunity to come and speak tonight. I'm here to talk to Council about My name is Hannah Liu and I'm from Kalamunda. I'm here tonight to talk about our local environment and highlight my concerns regarding a number of recent council decisions. My frustrations are somewhat centred around the journey of tree retention policy in the city, but also extend to what appears to be a general sense of apathy from some councillors with regards to the importance of protecting and preserving our local environment. I'm struggling to understand what more this community needs to do to have the message land with those in this room that we want more meaningful, decisive and tangible action to protect our unique local environment. It feels to me that community have again and again highlighted their unified and ongoing support for strong environmental protections in our city. Examples include community surveys completed over the years, some of which are included in here, which show resounding support and appreciation for our local environment. Also, voluntary community participation in the development of the previous LPP 33, where hundreds of hours from community members passionate to see functional tree retention policy was spent. Furthermore, when it became apparent that the promised swift action to reinstate tree retention policy had seen no progress from this room in 12 months, again community came together and Dr Michelle Bunn's motion in February 25 was met with applause and unanimous support from the attendees at the electors' AGM. And most recently, when attending one of your local planning strategy workshops, the one resounding and consistent theme that I heard from participants in the room related around protecting our environment and the value that it holds to all of the people that live here and visit here. In Kalamunda, we have an urban forest strategy, a climate change action plan, and a Kalamunda Clean and Green local environment strategy, the presence of which would make it appear that Council is committed to protecting our local environment and is aware of the value, both fiscal and intrinsic, that it provides. But for some councillors, documents on the shelf appears to be where it ends. Several recent decisions from this council are at odds with these strategies and misaligned with the priorities and sentiments so clearly articulated by a broad cross-section of the community. Recent examples include the February 24 repeal of the tree retention policy, and yes, it comes up a lot, but it was pretty big. The repeal of the tree retention policy with zero community consultation in the lead-up, the lack of any action to replace this policy until held to account by electors in Feb 25, voting in the March 25 Ordinary Council meeting against the officer's recommendation to allow a landowner to remove 2 remaining mature trees on their residential property in Setosa Drive Forest Field, the proposed selling off of 2 blocks of the Andrews Street Reserve, including declining the alternate motion put forward that would have seen one of the blocks retained to preserve the areas of higher value vegetation. And most recently, in response to the February 25 electors' AGM, which requested a tree retention policy based on the WALGA template, this council instead resolved to create a bespoke policy, the draft which contained significant exemptions for residential land, reducing its effectiveness immensely and putting it out of step with a number of councils across Perth. Whilst sharing my frustrations tonight, I would also like to acknowledge the positives currently in place when it comes to our local environment. The city has a fantastic annual Plants for Residents program, which always seems well subscribed, as well as commemorative tree planting. The city's street tree planting teams are knowledgeable and friendly, and when budget allows, they do a great job in providing and maintaining verge trees. Looking around at other local governments in Perth, many of whom are not blessed with the exceptional natural environment on their doorstep like we have in Kalamunda, I wanted to share some initiatives in place that I feel create a sense of strong and positive environmental stewardship. These range from small to large-scale initiatives. Some come with minimal budgetary implications, but they accumulate to show meaningful commitment across the city to the local environment. Some examples of initiatives I'd love to see here in Kalamunda would be promoting and hosting Tree Month celebrations or events, promoting and hosting a National Tree Day community event, obtaining BirdLife Australia's owl-friendly status as a council, to remove the use of second-generation rodenticides, and providing this information out to residents. Providing community support services to help residents, in particular the ageing residents, to live safely with trees rather than just providing for them to be removed. Commitment to a secure, strategic and multi-year street tree planting budget. And finally, rising to the challenge to enact some level of tree protection that applies to residential land, workshop the previous issues encountered rather than taking the easy way out with a blanket residential exemption. While I understand running an efficient and functional council means balancing many factors beyond the local environment, I feel the current behaviours of this council are putting at risk the very fabric that makes our city so special.
Thank you, Hannah. Before you go, councillors, do you have any questions? Thank you very much for coming to speak to us and putting those excellent thoughts in our heads. We appreciate it very much. Thank you. CEO, are there any applications for leave of absence?
Through you, Madam Mayor, no, there aren't.
Councillors, we have 2 lots of minutes to confirm tonight. We'll start with the minutes of the ordinary council meeting held on the 22nd of July 2025. Do I have a mover that those minutes are confirmed as a true and accurate record of those proceedings? Thank you, Councillor Cooper, seconded by Councillor Stallard. Is there going to be any debate? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. On the basis of the above motion, I now sign those minutes as a true and accurate record of the meeting of the 22nd of July. Councillors, we also had a special council meeting on the 12th of August. Do I have a mover that the minutes from that meeting are confirmed as a true and accurate record of the proceedings? Thank you, Councillor Ritchie, seconded by Councillor Modolo. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. On the basis of the above motion, I now sign those minutes as a true and accurate record of the meeting of the 12th of August. Announcements by the member presiding. Over the past few weeks, I've had the privilege of attending a wide variety of events that highlight the strength and spirit of our community. On Saturday, the 26th of July, Councillor Giardina and Freya, our Acting Manager of Place and Community Experience, attended the Kalamunda Volunteer Bushfire Brigade at their annual awards night. It was a wonderful opportunity to thank our volunteers and to acknowledge the families and employers who support them in their selfless service. The following Tuesday, the CEO and directors and I met with Alcoa to hear about their plans for mining in part of our city, which was what the special council meeting became about. That weekend, Saturday 9th of August, I attended a loneliness awareness event hosted by the Anglican Parish of Kalamunda. It was a heartfelt reminder of how important human connection is and how small acts of kindness can make a big difference. On Sunday the 10th of August, I joined with Councillor Giardina, Councillor Stallard and Councillor Modolo the Pickering Brook Football Club to watch their Indigenous round. It was inspiring to see football and culture celebrated side by side, and I thank the elders, players and volunteers who made it such a meaningful day. On Tuesday the 12th of August, we held a special council meeting following the public agenda briefing forum. I want to thank community members who came along and engaged with respect. Your input really does shape the way council makes decisions. Later that week, on Friday the 15th of August, we officially kicked off the next stage of works at Hartfield Park. This marks another step in delivering better and more accessible outcomes for our sporting clubs and their families. Monday the 18th of August was Vietnam Veterans Day, and I was honoured to join the service at the Kalamunda Cenotaph. It was a solemn moment to pause, reflect, and remember the sacrifice of those who served, lest we forget. That night, we had a citizenship ceremony, one of the things I love most about my role as Mayor, welcoming new citizens into the City of Kalamunda. Councillor Ritchie and Deputy Mayor Dylan O'Connor also attended, and then the three of us went to the candidate session where the Governance Officer and Acting CEO talked to candidates thinking or going to stand for election in the coming local government elections. That same day, we also welcomed officials from Nogi, Japan, as part of their 2025 visit to Kalamunda. It was a joy to strengthen our cultural ties and share our local story with them. Finally, on Saturday the 23rd of August, I had the pleasure of celebrating the 60th birthday of the Inner Wheel Club of Kalamunda. 60 years of service to others is an incredible achievement, and it was heartwarming to celebrate with so many generous and community-minded people. Through all of these events, one thing is clear: the heart of Kalamunda is strong. We are a community that looks out for one another, celebrates together, and works hard to create a kinder and more connected city. Councillors, we have some matters for which the meeting may be closed due to confidentiality. We'll address that when we come to it. Disclosure of interest. CEO, do we have any disclosure of interest?
Through you, Mayor, yes we do. We have one for Councillor John Giardina, item 11.1, Hatch Court Light Industrial Area, as it's an impartiality interest, as he has family property in that area on Stirling Street. We also have one for Councillor Lisa Cooper for item 10.2.1, the tender for Scott Reserve Pavilion reconstruction is the impartiality interest, as she's currently undertaking work at the electoral office of Stephen Price, MLA. Then we also have a couple from myself, the CEO, Anthony Valletta, item 10.6.6, application for leave CEO in February 2026. It relates to my conditions of employment, so it's an impartiality interest. Also 10.6.7, CEO performance review, appointment of consultant, is a direct financial interest, and as it relates to my employment with the city and my contract.
Thank you very much. Before we move on to our reports, I would like to advise you that item 10.6.9 has been withdrawn from the agenda by our CEO. So we move on to item 10.2.1, and I'll just ask our CEO to remind us of the declaration of interest on this one, please.
Through Madam Mayor, the item 10.2.1 is there's a declaration of interest from Councillor Lisa Cooper in relation to this tender. It's impartiality interest, as she's currently working in Stephen Price MLA's office as electoral officer.
Thank you. Councillors, before I go to questions, do I have a mover and a seconder for the officer recommendation on page 18? Moved by Councillor O'Connor, seconded by Councillor Madolo. Councillors, do you have any questions? Is there going to be any debate? I will go to the mover. Please, Councillor O'Connor. Councillor Madolo wishes to speak, so I'm giving you the opportunity to speak as the mover.
Nice. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Nothing to say apart from this is the culmination of some very effective and good work by our staff and all the people involved, including stakeholders, council and everyone. So thank you to all those involved if you're in the room or you hear this. It's an excellent effort, and it's, like I said at the PAB, it's a model for how the city should take these projects on moving forward, and I commend the council to support this.
Thank you, Councillor O'Connor, and I completely agree with what you said. Councillor Madolo is the seconder.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I wish to speak very briefly. Firstly, to add to the Deputy Mayor's comments and agree with them. It has been process that has reached a good outcome. I'd like to expand on those comments to a degree quickly, if I may, because I think there's an important backstory here that needs to be told to relive as to how we got to this point. The original project here at Scott Reserve failed in one fundamental aspect, and it didn't properly consult the user groups, being the High Wycombe Cricket Club, the High Wycombe Junior Footy Club, and the High Wycombe Amateur Football Club, being those clubs who use the building week in and week out. And compounding this was the budget. The project cost quickly blew out to nearly double what was originally forecast. That put potential enormous pressure on our city's finances, and it would have delivered a facility that in many ways was over-engineered and out of step with what community wanted. Let's not forget, it wasn't until the clubs themselves, as concerned ratepayers, came forward and said that they were being given, in their view, an expensive building that they didn't want, that finally decisive action was taken. I want to take this opportunity to publicly thank those clubs for their advocacy and their persistence, because it can be difficult for a volunteer organisation to push back against the local government. But their efforts have been critical in reshaping this project into something that's just much more practical, affordable, and ultimately just better for our community. The critical piece for me, though, in this council is the lessons learnt here. It's that value of meaningful consultation. The success that we've seen to date is not just because the city changed tack, and I genuinely appreciate them doing so and listening. It's because the user groups stood up and they engaged constructively. This is the example of how our community can help us to achieve better outcomes. And it should remind us we need to work with the community, not in spite of them. And on that basis, I'm pleased to support this recommendation.
Councillors, is there a speaker against or any other councillor who wishes to speak? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 10.2.2. Councillors, the officer recommendation is on page 23. Do we have a mover? Councillor Modolo, seconded by Councillor Ritchie. Councillors, do you have any questions about the FOGO services? Councillor Stallard.
Yes, thank you. Through the chair. I suppose this one's a bit late in the scene, but I'd just still like to ask it, certainly for myself, but certainly more so for the public. In being questioned about this and putting in some information that I felt about it when questioned as a councillor, one of the ones I indicated was a preference for a larger bin, or certainly the opportunity to change lids so that we had a large red bin and a smaller green bin if that's what's needed, so the FOGO bin and so on. What I didn't see in this outcome was the full comment about this, and I would just ask, is it possible for the manager or acting director for tonight to inform us of why this wasn't in the recommendation that's before us? What some of the aspects of it, why can't we do it, or where is it at, and is it possible that's something that we can look forward or towards in the future? Thank you.
Acting Director of Asset Services. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Stallard, for the question. Going back to February, correct, there was 11 options presented to the Council at the strategic briefing, and they did include options in regards to larger general waste bin, changing from fortnightly to weekly general waste collection, and also the lid swap. Some extensive costings were provided at that briefing, and that was the main reason that following the survey to councillors, those options didn't get further considered. The key parts of those reasons, in summary, were that the council adopted the Better Bins curbside guidelines model from others that have been delivering FOGO, and recommended by the state, the model we had was the preferred model that generated the better outcome in regards to the objective of reducing the amount of general waste that went to landfill. But the main reasons to the question really is the increase in cost of the amount of tonnes going to landfill. There's a big differential between going to landfill and FOGO processing and recycling processing. So if you increase the amount, the volumes, which, because we did the waste audit prior to going into delivering FOGO, we were aware that 60% of the material in the current general waste bin before FOGO could be FOGO or recycled. So the volumes increased, and the service was 720 litres before FOGO and up to 860 litres after FOGO. But so there was an increase of landfill, and the cost is around $70 per tonne difference. To date, we're on track to reduce the amount of material going to landfill by 12,000 tonnes. So it's a significant amount that the community has worked to change. The capital cost of new bins, there's a big cost of new bins. Even the lid swap, unfortunately the size of the 140 litre bin and the 240 litre FOGO bin, the lids can't be swapped easily. There's a different size. You'd need new pins as well, and the cost of the pins is probably around about 30,000 just for the pins without the cost of the lids. Then the lids become redundant and would need to dispose of them. There's no use because they're hot stamped with the city details on them. There's also contractual issues with our current waste contractor, which we'd have to negotiate with them. They may need to increase the size of the fleet because when they put in the tender, they were aware of the need for the three services. The time to manufacture the bins, and even what facility the waste is, where it's come from the curbside and actually goes to the different facilities. Recycling goes to Canning Vale, FOGO goes to Canning Vale, and general waste is going to Coburn. So there's different timings in how many trucks can do the deliveries, pickups within a day. So Council has considered some options that we've presented today. They were the main reasons that those ones weren't pursued further. But Council saw that FOGO and the default bins we have don't fit every family. And so Council introduced the additional bin, so members of the public households can actually request an additional bin. And in the 25-26 budget, Council reduced the cost of those bins down to cost to make it more accessible to people. To date, we've had 339 households request an additional general waste bin. Initially, when we introduced FOGO, there was a rush of people wanting to do that, but it's settled down now. We've been going 9-10 months now, and people are getting used to that. But we did have those people apply. So if somebody wanted an additional general waste bin, it's $180 per annum service fee, an initial $70 upfront cost. So in summary, hopefully that addresses the question.
A follow-up question, if I may. It's just in support or comment to that. One of the aspects of it, at early days, that we were getting lots of calls from residents about the changes and what it meant and that, and I knew it was time for adjusting and fixing up we were doing. So how has if I may ask this, if it's not the right timing yet, but how have the general public now responded, or what are they doing now in response to what's been going on? And is there a change in attitude and a change of need?
Acting Director.
Thank you, Chair. I do believe there has been a change, and when we first did the FOGO rollout, we asked people just to give it a go. There is change. It's worked elsewhere, so to give it a go and see how it is. We provided as much support as we could to the community in that regard. And of course, the two options that are being presented today are from the feedback that we received from the community members. Council adjusted the additional charge fee. So some people took up that option, and also Council had a reduced fee for people with medical or exceptional circumstances, and that addressed quite a few people's needs in there. But before FOGO, we had 19,500 tonnes going to landfill. 12,000 of that now is being repurposed as FOGO processing and as compost. So only 7,500 tonnes is going to landfill. So that's a significant change, and without the community being involved in that, we would never have got those numbers. And those numbers are higher than what we originally planned in our business case. We were looking at 10,000 tonne diversion. So it again doesn't fit everybody. We encourage people to come and talk to us, and Council has offered the additional bins of all general waste, recycling and FOGO as options.
Are there any other questions, councillors? Is there going to be any debate? Councillor Madola, you're the mover.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Council, we're fundamentally here to represent the views of the community. And in the Acting Director's words just now, FOGO isn't working for everyone. I believe I can summarise that community sentiment when I say new FOGO green lid bin, yep, like it. Smaller general waste bin, collected fortnightly, no, don't like it. That's why I'll support any recommendation that makes it easier for our community to manage their general waste. But in reality, the measures in this recommendation only fiddle around the edges. And although I take on board the comments made by the Acting Director tonight, where there's a will, there's a way. And I'd like to see Council better explore a more comprehensive change, like a bigger bin or a weekly collection. That those options are not on the table tonight is disappointing. But perhaps more disappointing is that this is the position we've got ourselves into. In my opinion, we had the chance to do things right from the beginning, and we didn't. I keep hearing this is a state government initiative, that we had no choice, yet our next door neighbour, the City of Swan, right now is contemplating bigger bins or weekly collections. This is an article from the Echo News just last Friday. Allow me to read the first paragraph. The City of Swan has voted 9-2 to continue the staged rollout of its 3-bin system, offering property owners a range of bin size options to choose from. The City of Swan Council also agreed to pause the rollout of FOGO in rural areas, and for a report to go back to Council after further consultation with the community. That Council also required that the City engage with the Waste Authority to seek retention of the Better Bin grant, and if not successful, to come back to Council for advice and decision. That, councillors, is called listening to your community. Nearly a whole year after we imposed our regime on the City of Kalamunda ratepayers, the City of Swan is determining the best way forward, hand in hand with their community. And comparatively, what did we do by way of consultation pre-decision? One survey. One survey which didn't even mention the red lid bin at all. One survey which got about 100 responses out of a citywide population of 64,000. And on the back of Scott Reserve a moment ago, we're only 2 items into this agenda, and both items tell a story of a lack of meaningful community consultation. We must do better. As councillors, our duty is to fight for better outcomes for our community. My commitment is clear. I will stand with our ratepayers and assist this council to achieve meaningful progress, and I will require accountability and transparency at every step. Because at the end of the day, councillors, I'm here for one reason only, to represent my community.
Councillor Ritchie, you're the seconder. Would you like to speak, please?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I will speak to the motion in front of us. And the motion is about the cloth nappy subsidy, and it's about the waiving the fee for the additional red bin for those who are in need, which is what I just intended to speak about, but I think probably I now need to speak in a bit more general in terms of our whole community. We do have 23,000 households, and we've had a very small percentage of those people who've even requested a second bin. So when we talk about the general support from the whole community, I think it's actually been overwhelming. Of course, this will not fit everybody, but the fact that we've got the lowest contamination rate in our FOGO of any of the councils that have taken this up says very strongly to me that our people want to be able to divert that material from landfill, and we've heard that 12,000 tonnes have not gone to landfill. We know what the costs are. We haven't got waste to energy. So the very notion of putting an impost cost onto other ratepayers, when the people who are concerned, we've now taken it down to 4 cents a day if you want an additional bin. And I think that's a reasonable compromise. And I also think, and I think it was Councillor Stallard that raised the issue of people with medical conditions, so we've actually gone to no cost for those people. I think it's a balancing act, and at the same time meeting our original notion was that it was to reduce the amount of stuff going to, amount of waste going to landfill, and also we know that that's going to come back to all ratepayers with free compost for their gardens. So I actually think it's been a pretty good balance between that, and certainly I have not heard from even a fraction, even 1% of the 23,000 households in our city about their concerns. They've just got on with it. So I support the motion to make these adjustments to our FOGO.
Thank you. Is there a councillor against this motion? Councillor Cannon.
Sorry, thank you. I just have a question. Is that okay?
Sure. But councillors, can I ask you to speak on this motion in front of you, not on other things when you speak? Councillor Cannon, your question, please.
Yep, thank you. Just due to some of the feedback that we've heard tonight, when we do the community consultations and surveys, what is the timeline of the feedback for the return response?
Director of Asset Services, can you like to take that?
Look, Chair, I can't answer that. I'd need to refer to our communications team. We're always looking at new ways to consult and new methods and media, and so I think I'm not the best person. We're guided by the communications team, so maybe we could take that on notice, please.
Perhaps we'll take that on notice, Councillor Cannon.
Thank you. And just a follow-up question. What's the usual percentage, would you know, that we hear back from the community? Because we do a lot of these surveys and consultations, and usually we have a percentage of what comes back. Would you happen to know that by any chance?
Thank you, Chair. I'd have to take
Not
that
me.
on notice, just so I can get the exact numbers back
We'll
through.
take that
So
on
it's-
notice too. Thanks, councillor. Are there any other questions? Is there anyone wish to speak against the motion? I will go back to the mover and ask him to speak on this motion only and your right of reply.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have nothing further to contribute.
Thank you. Councillors, we have a motion in front of you. All those in favour? Councillor Giardina, Councillor Stallard, Councillor Cannon, Councillor O'Donnell, Councillor Cooper, Councillor Ritchie, Councillor Madolo, Councillor Thomas, and against Councillor O'Connor. The motion is carried. Thank you. I now move on to 10.3.1. Councillors, the officer recommendation is on page 29 regarding the tender by Insight Enterprises Australia. Do I have a mover? Councillor Giardina, seconded by Councillor Cooper. Councillors, is there going to be any debate? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? That is carried unanimously. Bushfire Brigade's local law. Councillors, I'll ask for a mover first, and I note this is an absolute majority. Recommendation. Is there a mover for the recommendation on page 35? Councillor Giardina, seconded by Councillor Stallard. Are there any questions, councillors? Is there going to be any debate? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously, which is definitely an absolute majority. Thank you. Elected member communication and contact with staff policy. Is there a mover for the officer recommendation on 39? Thank you, Councillor O'Connor. Seconded by Councillor Giardina. Are there any questions, councillors? Is there going to be any debate? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Monthly financial statements. Councillors, is there a mover for the officer recommendation on page 48? Councillor Stallard, seconded by Councillor Cooper. Councillors, do you have any questions of our Director of Corporate Services? No. Is there going to be any debate? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Debtors and creditors reports for July 2025. Is there a mover for the officer recommendation on page 55? Councillor Madolo, seconded by Councillor Ritchie. Councillors, do you have any questions? Is there going to be any debate? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Rates debtors reports. Councillors, do I have a mover to accept this report on page 61? Councillor Cooper, seconded by Councillor Stallard. Are there any questions? Is there going to be any debate? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Kalamunda Water Park urgent maintenance work. Is there a mover for the officer recommendation on page 65? Councillor Giardina, seconded by Councillor Stallard. Councillors, do you have any questions? We had a strategy session on this, so I don't expect lots of questions, but I am giving you the opportunity. Is there going to be any debate, councillors? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Corporate business plan quarterly update. Is there a mover for the officer recommendation on page 69? Councillor O'Connor, seconded by Councillor Cannon. Are there any questions, councillors? Is there going to be any debate? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Application for leave. So we have a declaration of interest on this one. I'll just ask our CEO to remind us.
We do, Madam Mayor. It's for this item and the application, declaration is from myself, as it is an impartiality interest and relates to conditions of my employment.
So, councillors, are we going to let our CEO have leave? Councillors, is there a mover for the officer recommendation on page 72? Councillor Giardina, seconded by Councillor Cannon. Do we have any questions? We could ask him where he's going, what's he doing. No, we can't. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. So item 10.6.7, councillors, I'm moving to item 15 behind closed doors. So we'll deal with that then. Now I move to the ASRIP. Is there a mover for the officer recommendation on page 83? Thank you, Councillor O'Connor. I'll second that motion. Councillors, do you have any questions? Is there going to be any debate? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. I remind you that 10.6.9 has been pulled by our CEO and will come back later on. So we now move on to motions of which previous notice has been given. I will ask the CEO to remind us about the declaration of interest.
Through you, Madam Mayor, it's for Councillor John Giardina. It's an impartiality interest as he has a family property in that area on Stirling Street.
Thank you very much, and I'll note that Councillor Giardina has left the room. Councillors have the option to leave the room or stay, it's up to them. So, councillors, I am moving this motion. Is there a seconder? Councillor Ritchie. Councillors, I do wish to speak on the motion. So Councillor Ritchie and I attended a joint development application policy about warehouses on Stirling Crescent. And while the other members of that panel acknowledged that we had worked hard by buying a property in Hatch Court to make the road, to do a DCP, to get traffic off Stirling Crescent, their comment was, it's not ready yet. So the purpose of this motion is to move it forward. So there is a rationale there, I'm sure you've read that, but just to add a further few comments. So at the time of the local planning 35, only 2 developments had been approved, one of them in Kalamunda Road and the other facing Adelaide Street, interfacing with the adjoining City of Swan industrial area. So the warehouse development dealt with the matter of make sure you have regard to the scheme provisions which provide an LSP to facilitate a road to get traffic off Stirling Crescent by providing road land within the development available to be acquired by the city at a later date. Since that time, development has been approved on 3 more lots by the DAP panel because we weren't ready. The difference is that the last 3 lots will have development that will prejudice the delivery of a future local structure plan. While this prejudice of development and inconsistency with the planning regulations and local planning scheme provisions has been brought to the attention of the DAP panel members on all occasions, particularly by the City of Kalamunda representatives, being Councillor Ritchie and myself, the panel, the applications have been approved. So the point of this is to let's get this moving. We don't believe that the panel members are getting the balance of discretion correct in these decisions, rather than the city's scheme provisions, a legal instrument, being given heavy weight. The panel has regularly given the important planning framework little regard, with significant consequences for the local community. We didn't want all that traffic on Stirling Crescent. We wanted all that traffic, being mostly trucks, to use the road, Hatch Court Road, coming out to Adelaide Street. As a result, the decisions of the panel warrant immediate action to address the city's interim expectations for development in the area, to avoid this happening again. This is the purpose of this. Let's get it moving. Let's prepare a draft local planning policy relating to the Hatch Court light industrial area and introduce proper planning controls. Councillor Ritchie, would you like to add to that?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, I don't have a lot more to say. I am concerned, and I was on that panel, and I can understand why the other panellists supported the motion for it, because we just had to say we don't have anything in place, and we couldn't really put a constructive timeline in place, nor could we answer the question about how much that the proponent would have to pay, because we don't have that kind of figure of what the structure plan would actually cost. So a contribution plan would actually cost. So I can understand why the panel made that decision, albeit we put a fairly strong case as to why they should contribute. My concern is that other proponents in that area may well see that they've got in before this is in place, and that they will also be excluded from the development contribution plan, which then leaves the remaining lots to have to pick up all of the development contribution plan. So I think it is time. People haven't had anything in place before now, but nevertheless, I think we need to get a move on with it as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Before I go to the vote, are there any questions? Councillor Stallard.
Yes, through the chair again. Do we have a time frame? And if we get this in motion, then does it really give us the teeth to say no to any, or to try and reduce the opportunity for future developments before it comes out?
I'll go to our Director of Development Services, please.
Thank you, Councillor, and through the chair. The LPP provides a safeguard in the interim time period with respect to how is the project progressing. The city's appointed an external consultant team to pull together the necessary structure plan documentation and design guidelines, and they have already commenced their work working with some of the landowners immediate in that area. There was a resolution, correct me if I'm wrong, about 6 months or so ago where council gave a very clear indication that the previous LPP needed to be revoked and a structure plan needed to be put in play, and the administration has been working to fulfil council's resolution with respect to that direction. So we would be reasonable in having a completed plan and framework put together probably by the end of the year with a level of consultation, and that document would be brought back to council, so there would be full optics over that. This would provide a quicker interim step to protect the interest in that area and provide additional consideration for any future development applications being presented to the DAP and not to council.
Are there any other questions? Councillor O'Connor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just following on from that response, it was council's decision to revoke that previous policy on advice from the city. In the event that we did not revoke that policy, would the JDAP outcome have been the same?
Director?
That is an excellent question. I feel that the previous policy would have been a seriously entertained planning document, given that it had gone through a level of public engagement, although not supported by the landowners. It was felt that the existing provisions within the scheme and the requirement to do a structure plan should be a higher order requirement than a local planning policy. Notwithstanding the planning framework and the structures that it requires, the panel members made a decision to permit the development application to occur. And with respect to the Hesperia development on the top facing Adelaide, that was an example of where development was able to proceed ahead of those formal requirements being in play, being the scheme amendment requiring a structure plan to occur. So would the outcome put council in a stronger position by having that policy or not? I would say that in this regard, and we're not in that position, so it is a hypothetical, I feel that the panel would have still made the same decision with respect to how that was determined, and they may have given less regard to a seriously entertained or advertised policy, given that it wasn't adopted by council. So I feel you would still be in the same position with the decision-making process and the outcome with respect to this DA, but it is a hypothetical with respect to your question.
Follow-up question.
Given the resolution of council to proceed down exploring the DCP option and structure plan process, and given the dwindling number of potential landowners participating in that plan, what other instruments, if the DCP instrument is not the most appropriate one, what other instruments are available to the city to get a fair and equitable cost recovery for people who benefit from the infrastructure?
All right.
Director?
Again, rather complicated question, councillor, but there are other funding mechanisms that can be leveraged, some more formal than others. The more formal planning process is to have a developer contribution plan where there is development that puts aside funds for infrastructure delivery over time, right? That's a developer-led initiative. Some of the developers in the precinct and those that we've been having a conversation with are advocating for a special area rate, which is a way of providing infrastructure or a payback scheme to council if they were to forefund that infrastructure for delivery. And tenants that are operating and benefiting, so there's a need and nexus argument for that, could potentially cost recover those. It is not something that we have executed at the city. It is something that is within the bounds of exploration, and it is something that we're looking at, and that may be a mechanism which the city can cost recover infrastructure funds from industrial land uses over time in the future for those infrastructure works. But not a planning process, a local government process, because you're using a special area rate, and we would need to pressure test that with the Minister for Local Government as well as planning to see if there's alignment between the two. So There is still the potential to put a DCP in play. There is areas that have not gone through the full transition that would utilise that future road alignment in that area. But the more planning approvals that are issued without the necessary conditions or contributions towards all those infrastructure requirements does put the full cost recovery at risk. So.
Are there any other questions, councillors? Is there going to be any debate? I don't wish to add any more, so I'll put the motion. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Councillor Stallard, would you invite Councillor Giardina back, please? Councillor Giardina, I'll just let you know that that motion was carried unanimously. Councillors, do you have any questions by members without notice? Councillor Madolo.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll just direct my question to the City and the Director, appropriate Director can answer. It's very simply, can the City please advise when the new Local Planning Policy 33 Future Forest is going out for consultation and how long the consultation period will be?
Director of Development Services.
Thank you, Council, for the question. I can answer the first part, but I'd have to double check the notes with respect to the full timing considerations. We have had a number of inquiries around when the policy would be released for advertising. Our expectation is that it'll be released by the end of this week. Why has it taken a bit longer than anticipated? It's because we're going beyond the minimum standards for a local planning policy, and part of that was to increase the level of engagement, given that this was considered an important issue that the community would like additional time in which to respond. And Council made that clear through their resolution that they wanted that additional time to be afforded to the community to get their sentiments put into play. Exactly how long it is, it escapes me. I'll have to take the second part on notice, but it was clearly identified in the report.
Thank you. Councillor Ritchie, you have a question?
It was the same question. Just a clarification, I understood that was to be 60 days, was my understanding from that, but my question was exactly about that. When's it going out for consultation? I've had a lot of people asking that question. So by the end of the week, my understanding that it was 60 days.
Councillors, do you have any other questions about any topic whatsoever? Councillor Cannon.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a question from the Forestville community members. There's just they just want to know when the beginning of the streetscape of verges and roundabouts will possibly commence in the near future.
Our Director of Asset Services is not here tonight. I will ask our acting if he can take that or take it on notice.
Thank you, Chair. It's quite timely that time of year with weeds and everything growing up behind us with all the weather we've had. But because of issues like traffic management, I'd rather take that on notice and get Sinead to provide a comprehensive reply.
Are there any other questions? Councillor Stallard.
Yes, again through the Chair, thank you for the opportunity. One of the ones I was not able to be here, being over east, with the talk or discussion for potential candidates for the upcoming election. Was there any indication, or have we got any guidelines for the candidates when it comes to advertising in all the different forms or any forms during this election period, please?
I'll ask our Manager of Governance to take that, please.
Through the Mayor, the West Australian Electoral Commission has quite a lot of information on its website, and there is some information on there with regards to the electoral advertising material. I couldn't tell you exactly what it is, but I know that there is that information there. Follow-up
question, please.
Yes.
Thinking about what happened in both the state and federal election here in Kalamunda, do we have any more to add as a council, or is there any more we can do? Because I didn't think that the last couple of elections, the federal and state ones, really did help us a lot in getting clarity or getting some degree of competency about the whole process. Thank you.
I'll go to our CEO for that. Give him the hard ones.
I'm not too sure if it was a question, but The approach would be similar. We would hope that people would comply, but Nathan's area in planning will actually have some level of oversight of the signage that's going out, so there would be compliance activities as the signs do go out. But again, like unless there's visual distractions against or something's against our local laws, we won't be acting on it. And a lot of the time in the previous elections, if the state government, if candidates actually had permission from property owners to actually put a sign on their verge or on their property, they were permitted. The only ones we actually had major issues with were ones that were at, say, roundabouts with those electronic signs and what have you, creating distractions for drivers and the like. I think we mentioned last time also our policy framework around signage is a bit loose, and it needs some work, and I think we do need to develop a new policy framework around that to tighten it up. But obviously, leading up to this election is getting very close, and I don't think that's going to be in place by then.
Thank you. A follow-up question, one more, sorry. Thank you, Nathan, for all the work you did and helped with that during the election periods. It was amazing, but I suppose would it be appropriate to ask the community to be vigilant in this and therefore come forward if any issues or any problems? Like I did witness for over a week signage in the middle of a roundabout, and it was even after the election was finished. So would it be appropriate for us to make sure we've got the means to contact the staff and say this is an issue, can it be dealt with? Thank you.
Director of...
Thank you, Councillor, for the question. Our first point of call is not for the community to take action into their own hands. I would recommend that those community members contact those candidates directly and have a conversation with them about what they stand for, and perhaps even suggest to them that their signage is in the wrong location and that they should move it. It would be inappropriate for them to move it. Failing that, of course, they can reach out to the city offices and we can facilitate that conversation with those candidates rather than remove it directly. Failing that, yes, the city would pick those signs up and ensure a level of compliance with the guidelines.
Thank you, Councillor Stallard. Councillor Giardina.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is through to the CEO. Over the last probably 2 or 3 days, I think you would have received a letter from the chairman of the Les Moody Senior High School in respect to parking. It's been a long and drawn out exercise. I've tried to reach out to Mr. Hort's office yesterday or today, one of the two. Yes, today it was, and but I couldn't get a hold of him. Have you had any success through that office or anywhere else, the Education Department? They keep on saying no, of course.
Through the Chair, I think Councillor Stallard was there as well, and myself and Sinead, Director, and Manager Rory had a meeting with Les Moody Senior High School 2 weeks ago, or thereabouts, and largely the ball is in their court in terms of how they want to progress parking in this situation. We've actively got main roads to approve a 40k zone during school hours on I've forgotten the street, Pomeroy. So that's a good thing. So it lowers the risk of what we've currently got there with kids parking on Pomeroy. However, it doesn't solve the parking issue. So largely we've looked at a number of areas on their property that could provide the parking that's required, and areas that haven't been designated as potential future expansion or additional modifications to their site. It's really now up to and we work with the school P&C to actually try to work up some plans for them and help them along the way to present to the Education Department to provide for the parking.
My understanding is that, well, the email that I've seen, that the Education Department keeps on saying no. So where do we go from here? Is it the local member that's got to sort of twist some arms, or...?
Through the Chair, it's most definitely a state government issue. Broadly speaking, all schools under-provide for parking, and this is the end result of it. Every school is under-providing. If you had a normal development in the city, they would have to provide for all of their parking, but the Education Department doesn't. And so that's why we have this issue, and they don't provide for the kids or the young adults that are actually getting their licence to park on site, even though there's potentially parking bays on site already or not being, and that aren't being used during peak periods. So we've tried every option with them. We'll help them as much as we can, but we can't actually solve this one for them.
Another question, follow-up. Picklenbrook Town site, have we done any work on that? I know I've asked you in the past, offline, is there anything transpired since I spoke to you last?
Director of Development Services, would you like to take that?
I can.
It will just be a no, nothing has happened.
No, the short answer is it's definitely a no. We continue to advocate to get some movement with state government, and we take every opportunity in which to try and progress that town site development plan. Unfortunately, I don't have any news at this point in time with respect to their decision timeframes or anything like that. But yes, the city continues to advocate to try and progress that planning proposal to move forward.
Councillor Stallard, do you have another question?
Can I do a follow-up to a previous question from
No.
Councillor Giardina?
Yeah, no, you can.
Thank you. It was just that we indicated that we would look at some of the different locations for parking. Having received it, and I just sent it through to you in case you hadn't got it, the Education Department saying no on any grounds, and that we should be trying to encourage them, your MOVE program, and encourage them to do walking, riding or using public transport, which I responded to quite nicely earlier on today. We won't go down that path. And can I just ask, where are we at? I know we said the staff said that they would look at some of the options and do some costing. So how long before we might have anything like that through the CEO who was involved in the process? Thank you.
Just on that one, I think Sinead's not obviously here at this point in time, so I'd probably have to take that one on notice, Councillor Stallard, and just find out. We were working with them in unison, trying to get some plans together. I think it was going to be a matter of a few weeks, but I'll get some information for you.
Can I just follow up that? Definitely, as Councillor Giardina said, the department has said categorically no parking, no student parking on any Education Department land whatsoever. So we need to look at the other option. Thank you.
Yes, and good luck trying to get 17-year-olds who have just got a licence and car to walk to school. Are there any questions, councillors, on anything else? Councillor O'Connor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just following the theme of students, I've got several angry and disgruntled students regarding the BMX dirt jumps at the bush site on Watsonia Road. I understand that this bushland is under the care of DBCA. Could maybe the Director of Community Services provide me with a contact at DBCA to who the students could write to and plead their case for why those jumps shouldn't be destroyed and why they should be allowed to keep doing what they're doing, please?
Director of our Acting Director of Asset Services.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to take that one. So yes, we do have some contacts, so I will email them through, no problems at all. Thank you.
Any other questions about anything, councillors? No? There are no questions by members of which due notice has been given, and there is no urgent business approved by the presiding member. So I will ask a mover that we go behind closed doors. Thank you, Councillor Gina, seconded by Councillor O'Donnell. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Thank you for attending our meeting tonight. You're welcome to come back at the end, or we will see you next time, maybe.